Daughter abandons parents with 2 dogs, but she didn't know about the treasure they were hiding. Jennifer Barnes slammed the Ford Focus door harder than necessary and started the engine without looking back. In the rearview mirror, she could see her parents on the porch of the simple brick house, embracing and watching her departure. 2 large dogs remained seated beside them, like silent guardians of that bitter farewell. The argument had started during Sunday lunch, when her father mentioned for the 3rd time in 2 weeks that they needed to talk about the future of the small rural property. Jennifer exploded, as always happened when the subject of inheritance came up. She had an established life in New York City, a manager position at a cosmetics company, and didn't want to bother with taking care of land and animals. "You have to understand that I'm not going to give up my career to stay here in the middle of nowhere taking care of dogs," she had shouted, pointing to the 2 Kangals resting in the yard. "I've told you 1,000 times, sell this property and go live in an apartment in the city." Her father, Robert Barnes, 68 years old, had tried to explain once again that those weren't just ordinary dogs, but she didn't want to listen. Her mother, Susan, 65 years old, just shook her head silently, as she always did whenever she witnessed these arguments between father and daughter. The car disappeared around the curve of the dirt road that connected the small property to the state highway. Susan squeezed her husband's arm and sighed deeply. "She'll be back, Robert. She'll understand eventually." 52 years waiting for this, my dear. 52 years. The 2 Kangals, Duke and Lady, approached the couple as if they could sense the sadness in the air. Robert ran his hand through Duke's thick fur, the male, while Susan petted Lady's head, the female. Both dogs had cream-colored coats with black masks on their faces, triangular ears, and an imposing stature that impressed any visitor. "At least you 2 won't abandon us, right?" murmured Susan. In the nearby town of Tarrytown, in upstate New York, Jennifer stopped at a gas station to refuel and buy coffee. She was still irritated by her parents' insistence on wanting her to get involved with that property she considered a burden. She had plans to move to a larger apartment, maybe even leave the country with her boyfriend, and couldn't afford to worry about 2 stubborn elderly people. While drinking her coffee, her phone rang. It was Mrs. Harrison, her parents' closest neighbor, who lived about 500 meters away. "Jennifer, dear, sorry to bother you, but I need to tell you something." "Hi, Mrs. Harrison. What is it?" "It's about your parents, dear. This is the 3rd Sunday in a row that you leave there arguing. We can hear from here, you know. And I worry about them." Jennifer sighed, trying to control her irritation. "Mrs. Harrison, with all due respect, but this is a family matter." "I know, dear, but your parents are such good people, and those dogs of theirs are special. Everyone around here knows that." "Special how?" "Oh dear, they came all the way from Turkey, didn't they? Your maternal grandfather brought their parents when he came to the United States in the 60s. They're very valuable guard dogs, from what people say." Jennifer gave a sarcastic laugh. "Valuable? Mrs. Harrison, they're just big dogs that eat a lot and are a handful." "If you say so, dear, but look, be careful on the road, okay? And think kindly of your parents. They're not getting any younger." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. After hanging up, Jennifer tried to focus on the drive back to New York City, but Mrs. Harrison's words echoed in her mind. Valuable dogs? She had never paid much attention to Boris and Nasha's origins, only knowing they were large and intimidating. As a child, she vaguely remembered her grandfather talking about Turkey and special dogs, but she always thought they were just old folks' tales. The traffic on the FDR Drive was heavy as always on Sunday afternoon. As she inched forward slowly, Jennifer thought about the look of disappointment on her father's face when she had once again refused to listen to the plans for the property. Robert had always been a hard-working man who had built the small farm with his own hands after years of working at a metalworking factory in New York City. When he retired, he decided to move to the countryside with his wife and dedicate himself to raising the dogs he considered his passion. Jennifer arrived at her Upper East Side apartment late in the afternoon. It was a well-decorated two-bedroom on the 10th floor of a modern building with a view of the city. Michael, her boyfriend of 2 years, was already there watching television. "How was it with the old folks?" he asked, without taking his eyes off the screen. "Same as always, they want me to drop everything here to take care of their little farm. And what did you say?" "The same thing as always, that they should sell everything and come live in the city or hire someone to look after the place." Michael finally looked at her. He was a 35-year-old man, a sales representative for a medical equipment company, always well-dressed with impeccably styled hair. "Jennifer, have you ever stopped to think that they might be right? I mean, a property in the countryside could be a good investment. If you inherited everything, we could sell and use the money to buy a bigger apartment, or even move abroad like we've been planning." "Michael, you don't understand. It's a small property with a simple house and 2 huge dogs. It's hardly worth anything, and it still costs money for vet bills and food." "What breed of dogs?" "I don't know. Kangal, I think. They're Turkish or something." Michael raised his eyebrows. "Kangal? Jennifer, those dogs are rare and very expensive. I remember seeing a report about them. They're considered the best guard dogs in the world." Jennifer looked at him skeptically. "You're exaggerating." "No, seriously. Grab your phone and look it up." Reluctantly, Jennifer opened her phone's browser and typed Kangal dog's price. The results that appeared on the screen left her stunned. There were ads for puppies being sold for amounts ranging from $15,000 to $30,000. Some adult specimens with special pedigrees were even listed for even higher prices. "Michael, look at this. It says here that some can be worth more than $50,000. I told you, and if your parents have too, imagine the value of the puppies they might have." Jennifer kept reading, discovering that Kangals originated from Turkey and were considered a national heritage of that country. They were extremely rare dogs outside of Turkey, and specimens with proven lineage could be worth real fortunes. That night she couldn't sleep well. She kept thinking about the conversation with Mrs. Harrison and the information she had found online. Could it be that her parents really had something valuable, and she had never paid attention? On Monday morning, Jennifer arrived at work distracted. She had been the marketing manager at the cosmetics company for 5 years, a position she had earned through hard work and dedication. But all morning she couldn't focus on the sales spreadsheets and planning meetings. During her lunch break, she called her mother. "Hi, Mom. Is everything okay?" "Hi, honey. What a surprise to hear from you. Everything's fine, yes. Your father is in the backyard taking care of the boys. Mom, I wanted to ask you something about Boris and Nasha. Do they have papers, pedigree, that kind of thing?" Susan was silent for a few seconds. "Of course they do, honey. Your grandfather Ibrahim was always very careful about these things. Why do you ask?" "I was just curious. I read online that they're rare dogs." "Oh, honey, your grandfather always said they were special. He brought their great-grandparents straight from Sivas, Turkey. He said it was the purest lineage he could find." "And do you have these documents?" "Yes, we do. Everything is kept in a folder in your father's office, including those of Grandpa Ibrahim, who passed away 10 years ago." "Grandpa Ibrahim, the father of Duke and Lady, honey. Don't you remember? He lived until he was 15. He's the one who had the puppies you received when you were a child." Jennifer felt a chill in her stomach. She had received Duke and Lady when she was 8 years old, and back then they were just 2 cute puppies that played with her in the yard. She never imagined they could have any special value. "Mom, have they ever had puppies?" "No, honey. The vet said Lady isn't at the ideal age yet, but he believes she can breed next year." After hanging up, Jennifer felt uneasy for the rest of the day. She couldn't stop thinking about the possibility of having neglected something important. What if there really was some significant value in those dogs? What if she had been unfair to her parents all these years? When she got home, she found Michael working on the computer. "Jennifer, you won't believe what I discovered today." "What?" "I researched more about Turkish Kangals. I found a website specialized in purebred dogs, and it has impressive information. Apparently, specimens with proven lineage from the Sivas region are extremely rare in the United States. Some breeders pay over $100,000 for a breeding pair. $100,000. And that's just the beginning. If they have puppies with international pedigree, each puppy can be worth between $20,000 to $40,000, depending on the lineage." Jennifer sat down heavily on the sofa. Michael, I think I made a very serious mistake. On Tuesday, Jennifer called the office asking for personal leave and hit the road to her parents' property. This time, the trip seemed longer than usual. She mentally rehearsed how to bring up the subject of the dogs without seeming greedy. When she arrived, she found her father in the yard giving Duke a bath. The huge dog remained patient, while Robert lovingly soaped him up. "Hi, Dad." Robert turned around, surprised. "Jennifer, what are you doing here on a Tuesday?" "I took time off work. I wanted to talk to you." "About what? If it's to argue again?" "No, Dad. I want to talk about the dogs." Robert stopped brushing Duke and looked at his daughter carefully. "What about the dogs?" "I researched their breed online. It seems they're quite valuable." And I wanted to better understand their history. Mom said Grandpa Ibrahim was their father." Robert turned off the hose and approached his daughter. "Jennifer, for 20 years I've been trying to explain to you about these dogs. You never wanted to listen." "I know, Dad, and I'm sorry. But now I want to understand." Robert called Susan, who came out of the house drying her hands on her apron. "What is it, Robert?" "Jennifer wants to know about the Kangles." Susan looked at her daughter with an expression mixing surprise and hope. "Really, honey? Really, Mom? I want to understand everything from the beginning." The three of them sat on the house porch, with Duke and Lady lying at their feet. Susan served coffee while Robert went to get a folder with documents. "So, honey, let's start with your great-grandfather, Abdullah Demirci. He came from Turkey in 1962, fleeing political problems. He brought with him a pair of Kangals from the Sivas region, which is considered the birthplace of the breed." "And why did he bring the dogs?" "Because over in Turkey, Kangals aren't just pets, they're cultural heritage. Traditional families have lineages that pass from generation to generation for hundreds of years. Your great-grandfather didn't want to leave this heritage behind." Susan continued the story. "Abdullah settled here in the region and managed to register the dogs with an international organization. He was very careful with the lineage, only allowing them to breed with other pure Kangals. When your grandfather Ibrahim was born, Abdullah was already planning to perpetuate the lineage in the United States. And did it work?" "Yes, it did. Grandpa Ibrahim had a litter with a female that Abdullah managed to import from Turkey in 1975. From that litter he chose the best specimens and continued the work." Robert opened the folder and showed various documents. "Look here, Jennifer. International registration certificates, complete pedigree, genetic tests, everything properly documented." Jennifer took the papers and tried to understand the information. There were stamps from Turkish, American organizations, and even from an international Kangal Breeders Federation. "Dad, how did you get Duke and Lady?" "Grandpa Ibrahim had his last litter in 2015. He was already quite old, 13 years old. There were only 3 puppies. One died young, and the other 2 are these here." "And when did Grandpa Ibrahim die?" "In 2018. He lived 15 years, which is a lot for a dog of this size." Jennifer quickly did the math. Duke and Lady were about 8 years old, still considered young adults. "And can they have puppies?" "Yes, they can," Susan replied. "The local veterinarian here, Dr. Paul, always said that Lady is in perfect condition for breeding. We just never tried because we didn't have anyone to breed them with. Pure Kangal is very rare here in the United States." "But could they breed with each other?" "No, dear, they're siblings. It's not recommended to maintain the quality of the lineage." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. At that moment, a car stopped in front of the property. It was a black Toyota Camry, from which a man around 50 years old, well-dressed, wearing a suit even in the countryside heat, got out. "Good afternoon. Are you expecting visitors?" asked Jennifer. "No," replied Robert, standing up to greet the visitor. The man approached the gate and greeted politely. "Good afternoon. My name is Charles Mitchell. I'm a dog breeder and would like to speak with you about the Kangals." Robert and Susan exchanged surprised glances. "How did you know we have Kangals here?" "Well, this is a small community, and I've been researching breeders of the breed for a few months. A veterinarian from Tarrytown gave me the information. Dr. Paul? Exactly, he told me you have 2 exceptional specimens. Jennifer felt her heart race. This couldn't be a coincidence. Do you want something specific? Asked Robert. Actually, I'm interested in buying the dogs. I'm willing to pay a very good price. They're not for sale, Susan replied immediately. You haven't even heard my proposal yet. No need to hear, said Robert, standing beside his wife. These dogs aren't merchandise. Charles Mitchell smiled and took a business card from his pocket. I understand the emotional attachment to animals, but I'm talking about an amount that could completely change your lives. How much? Asked Jennifer, ignoring her parents' disapproving looks. $200,000 for the pair. The silence that followed was heavy. Susan clung to her husband's arm, while Robert maintained a serious expression. Thank you for the offer, but as my wife said, they're not for sale. $300,000. Mr. Mitchell, you're not understanding, said Robert, beginning to get irritated. These dogs were a gift we gave our daughter when she was a child. They're not ours to sell. Charles Mitchell looked at Jennifer. Are you the daughter? I am. So the decision is yours. Jennifer felt all eyes on her. Her parents expected her to confirm that the dogs weren't for sale, but 300,000 Rs was an amount that would completely change her life. I need to think. Jennifer! Exclaimed Susan, visibly shocked. Honey, you can't be serious, said Robert. Dad, it's 300,000 Rs. Do you know how much money that is? I know exactly how much it is, Robert replied, his voice firm. And I also know that there are things in life that are priceless. Charles Mitchell noticed the family tension and decided to intervene. You don't need to decide right now. I'll leave my card and give you a week. But I warn you that I have other interested parties, so the offer might not last long. After the man left, the family remained silent for several minutes. Jennifer, tell me something, began Susan, her voice trembling. Are you really thinking about selling Duke and Lady? Mom, 300,000 Rs. You could buy a house in the city, pay for all the medical treatments you need, have a comfortable life. And you? What would you do with your share? Asked Robert. I'd use it to improve my life too. Maybe buy a bigger apartment or even move abroad with Michael. Oh, I see, said Robert bitterly. It's about what you'll gain, not what's best for us. Dad, I'm just being practical. Practical? Jennifer, these dogs have been part of our family for almost 60 years. Your great-grandfather Abdullah cried when he had to leave the first ones in Turkey. Your grandfather dedicated his entire life to preserving this lineage, and you want to sell everything for money? Jennifer stood up, irritated. Dad, you live in a simple house with financial difficulties, worrying about vet bills and dog food, when you could be rich. Rich? Susan stood up too. Honey, do you think wealth is just money? It's what matters in the real world, Mom. So you're saying we're poor? Asked Robert. That's not it. But that's exactly what you're saying. That our life here is worthless. That our dogs mean nothing. That our family history has no value. Jennifer realized the argument was getting out of control. Dad, I just want you to have a better life. Better according to whom? According to you, who comes here once a month and barely knows our routine. The argument continued for another hour, with emotions running higher. Jennifer argued about the practicality of selling the dogs and using the money to secure the family's future. Her parents insisted that there were more important values than money. By late afternoon, Jennifer left again amid an argument, leaving her parents even more hurt. This time, she took Charles Mitchell's card with her. During the following week, Jennifer researched everything she could about Kangal breeders in the United States. She discovered that they were indeed extremely rare, and that Charles Mitchell appeared on various specialized websites as one of the country's main importers of exotic dogs. Michael completely supported her idea of selling the dogs. Jennifer, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. With 300,000 Rs, we could make a down payment on a 200-square-meter apartment, or even buy that apartment in Miami you've always wanted. But they've been mine since I was a child, Michael. I have an emotional connection with them. Emotional connection? You've been complaining about them for years. You always said they were a problem, that they were a lot of work and expense. That's true, but no buts, Jennifer. You're letting sentimentality get in the way of a rational decision. Think about it. Your parents are already elderly. They won't live forever. Eventually, these dogs will be your responsibility anyway. It's better to settle this now when you can still make a fortune. Rodrigo's words echoed in Jennifer's mind all week. She knew he was right from a practical standpoint, but something inside her resisted the idea of selling Duke and Lady. On Friday, she decided to call Charles Mitchell. "Hello, Mr. Charles, this is Jennifer Barnes, the daughter of the Kangal breeders. So have you reached a decision? I'm still thinking, but I wanted to better understand why you're so interested in our dog specifically. Look, Jennifer, I'll be frank with you. I've been researching Kangal bloodlines for 15 years. I've imported several specimens from Turkey, but I've never found a lineage as pure and well documented as yours here in the United States. What exactly does that mean? It means your dogs are direct descendants of one of the main bloodlines from Sivas. Their pedigree is impeccable, with no mixing with other breeds. That's extremely rare outside Turkey. And what would you do with them? I have a property in Pennsylvania specialized in breeding. I'd set up a serious reproduction program with specialized veterinary monitoring and strict genetic control. Would they have puppies? That's exactly the goal. With their lineage, I could produce puppies that would be sought after worldwide. I'm talking about $1 million business, Jennifer. $1 million? Without a doubt. Each litter can yield between 500,000 to 1 million rees, depending on the number of puppies and their quality. Jennifer felt her head spinning. 1 million rees per litter. And how many litters could they have? Lady is still young. She could have at least 3 or 4 litters in her lifetime. And with a stud of Duke's quality, we're talking about an invaluable genetic heritage. After hanging up, Jennifer was stunned by the information. If each litter could be worth up to 1 million rees and Lady could have 4 litters, that meant up to 4 million rees in potential. And she was letting all that slip away due to sentimentality. That night, she called her parents. "Dad, it's Jennifer." "Hi, honey." "Dad, I spoke with Charles Mitchell today. He explained more about the value of our dogs." "Our dogs?" "The dogs, Dad. He said they could be worth much more than 300,000 rees. And I think we should accept the offer." The silence on the other end lasted almost a minute. "Dad, are you there?" "I am, Jennifer. I'm just trying to understand how a daughter I raised could be saying this." "Dad, it's not about feelings. It's about being smart." "Smart? You think selling your great-grandfather's legacy for money is smart?" "I think living well and having financial security is smart, yes." "So it's decided?" "It is, Dad. On Sunday, I'll come over to sort this out." "No need to come, Jennifer." "What do you mean? If you've already decided, you don't need to come here to humiliate us in person." "Dad, you're getting 300,000 rees. How is that humiliation?" "Because you're selling our family's soul, honey. You're throwing away 60 years of history for money." "Dad, be rational." "Rational? You know what's rational, Jennifer. Rational is a daughter who should care for the family heritage, not destroy it." The conversation ended abruptly, with Robert hanging up the phone. On Saturday morning, Jennifer woke up determined to finalize the sale. She called Charles Mitchell and scheduled a meeting for Monday at her parents' property. She also called a lawyer to check the legal procedures for the transaction. The lawyer, Dr. William Peterson, received her at his office in downtown New York City. "So, Ms. Jennifer, you want to sell 2 dogs for 300,000 rees?" "That's right." "And they're registered under whose name?" "My parents, I think." "You think?" "Well, they gave me the dogs when I was a child, but we never transferred the documentation." "I see. So legally the dogs belong to your parents?" "I don't know. I need to check." "Dr. Jennifer, without clear ownership documentation, you can't sell anything. Also, if the dogs are registered under your parents' names, they need to sign off on the sale. And if they don't want to sign, then the sale can't happen." Jennifer left the office worried. She hadn't considered the legal issue of the dog's ownership. She urgently needed to check whose name was on the documentation. On Sunday morning, she hit the road to her parents' property, this time determined to resolve the situation once and for all. When she arrived, she found an unusual scene. There were two cars parked in front of the house besides her parents' car. One was a silver Honda Accord, and the other was a white Ford F-150. On the porch, her parents were talking with four people Jennifer didn't know. When she approached, the conversation stopped. "Hi, Dad. Who are these people?" "Jennifer, let me introduce you. This is Dr. Thomas Miller, a veterinarian specializing in purebred dogs, and this is Dr. Sarah Anderson, an animal geneticist. And here we have the couple John and Mary Johnson, breeders from Colorado." Jennifer greeted everyone politely but was confused. "What are you all doing here?" Dr. Thomas stood up. "Miss Jennifer, we received information that there's a pair of purebred Turkish Kangal here on the property. We came to verify the authenticity of the lineage." "For what?" "To officially document it. From what we've been able to determine so far, your parents have in their hands a genetic heritage of priceless value." Dr. Sarah added, "We've done preliminary pedigree analyses and confirmed the authenticity. The lineage traces directly back to the dogs from Sivas in Turkey. It's one of the purest we've ever found outside the country of origin." John Johnson, a man of simple appearance but with experienced eyes, addressed Jennifer. "Miss, your parents are lucky. I've been breeding dogs for 20 years and have never seen documentation as complete as this. And what's the estimated value of the dogs?" Jennifer asked directly. The experts exchanged glances before Dr. Thomas answered, "It depends on what you intend to do with them. If it's just selling them as pets, perhaps $300,000 to $400,000 for the pair. But if it's for professional breeding, how much could it reach?" "Dr. Sarah, you can answer better than I can." The geneticist adjusted her glasses. "If we set up a serious breeding program with genetic control and specialized veterinary monitoring, we're talking about a market value that could exceed $2 million over 5 years. Jennifer felt her legs go weak. $2 million? That's considering only the sale of puppies. If we include participation in international shows, breeding licensing and development of new lines, the value could be even higher." Robert, who had remained silent during the explanation, finally spoke. "Dr. Thomas, we appreciate your evaluation, but as I've already explained, the dogs are not for sale." "Mr. Robert, I understand the emotional connection, but perhaps we can find an alternative." "What kind of alternative?" John Johnson spoke up. "A partnership. You would keep the dogs here on the property, but we would set up a professional breeding program. You would receive a percentage from each puppy sold." "How much would that percentage be?" 50%. You would provide the breeding dogs and the space. We would handle the technical and commercial part." Jennifer quickly did the mental math. 50% of $2 million was $1 million. "Dad, this proposal sounds interesting. Jennifer, you said you were going to sell the dogs to that Charles." "But this offer is much better, Dad. You keep the dogs and still make money." Susan, who had been watching the entire discussion, finally spoke up. "Everyone, can I say something?" They all turned to her. "My husband and I are simple people. We don't understand million-dollar business deals or breeding programs. We only know that our dogs are special and that they were a gift we gave to our daughter." "Mom, let me finish, Jennifer. If you've decided you want to sell them, then sell them, but don't come crying with regrets later." "What do you mean?" "Just this. You choose. Either keep the dogs as family or sell them as business, but you can't have it both ways." Dr. Thomas Miller tried to mediate the situation. "Mrs. Susan, I understand your concern, but consider that with a partnership, the dogs would still be part of the family and would also generate income for you. Doctor, you're an educated and qualified person, but you don't understand our family situation." "How so?" Robert stood up and positioned himself beside his wife. "Doctor, for 20 years our daughter has been coming here asking us to sell our property, our dogs, our life, to move to the city. She never showed any interest or affection for our breeding. And now suddenly she wants to make a business deal with them. And what's the problem with that? The problem is that business isn't family, Doctor. If she wants the dogs as business, then they stop being family." Jennifer got angry with her parents' stance. "Dad, you're being irrational. I'm trying to find a solution that benefits everyone." "Benefits everyone, or mainly benefits you? Why are you making it seem like I'm a bad person?" "No one's making it seem like anything, daughter. You're the one showing who you are." The discussion intensified with the experts trying to mediate, but without success. By late afternoon, Jennifer left angry again, this time in front of 4 strangers who had witnessed the family conflict. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. During the following week, Jennifer couldn't concentrate at work. The experts' words echoed in her mind. $2 million. It was an amount that would change not only her life, but the lives of several generations of the family. On Wednesday, she received an unexpected call from Charles Mitchell. Jennifer, I have bad news. What kind of bad news? I heard your parents have received other experts. This complicates our negotiation. Why? Because now they know the real value of the dogs. My offer of $300,000 won't interest them anymore. How much would you be willing to pay now? That's the issue, Jennifer. When I discovered the dogs, they were a well-kept secret. Now, with experts involved, soon everyone will know about them. And what does that mean? It means other buyers will appear. And in a bidding war, I might not be able to compete. But you said it was $1 million business. It is. But I'd have to invest a lot of money in facilities, veterinarians, marketing. If I buy the dogs for too high a price, my profit margin shrinks. So what's your new offer? $500,000 settled today. No backing out. Jennifer fell silent, processing the information. Jennifer, are you there? I am. It's just that $500,000 is much less than the $2 million the experts mentioned. Jennifer, $2 million is a projection over years, with lots of work and investment. $500,000 is money in hand today. I need to talk to my parents. You have until Friday. After that, I withdraw the offer. That night, Jennifer talked at length with Michael about the situation. Michael, I'm confused. The experts talked about $2 million, but it would be over years. Charles is offering $500,000 now. Jennifer, you know the saying, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. But it's $2 million, Michael, which may never materialize. How many things can go wrong in a dog breeding business? Diseases, genetic problems, market changes. $500,000 is a certain and substantial amount. And if my parents don't want to sell, then you'll have to make a tough decision. What kind of decision? Jennifer, you're an only child. You'll inherit everything eventually anyway. The question is whether you want to wait for that to happen naturally, or if you're going to speed up the process. Speed up how? There are legal ways for a person to take over the management of elderly parents' assets, especially if it's proven they're no longer capable of properly managing the estate. Michael, are you suggesting I declare my parents incompetent? I'm suggesting you consult a lawyer and understand your legal options. Your parents are refusing to accept $1 million offer for emotional reasons. That could be considered improper estate management. Jennifer was horrified by the suggestion. Michael, they're my parents. I can't do that to them. Do that. Jennifer, think about it. They're already elderly. They won't live forever. And meanwhile, a fortune is sitting there, generating no return. It's not a question of bad character. It's a question of smart resource management. On Thursday, Jennifer went to see Dr. William Peterson, the lawyer, again. Doctor, I need to understand a hypothetical situation. Go ahead. If an elderly person refuses to accept a beneficial offer for emotional reasons, can that be considered improper estate management? It depends on the context. Does the person have any diagnosed mental issues? No, they're just stubborn people. Then there's no legal basis to question their capacity. People have the right to refuse offers even if others consider those offers beneficial. And if this refusal financially harms the family, even then, if the person is of sound mind, the decision is theirs. But is there any way to... Dr. Barnes, let me be clear. What you're suggesting is that I find a legal way to remove your parents' decision-making autonomy so you can sell property that belongs to them. That's neither ethical nor legal. That's not it, Doctor. That's exactly it. And even if it were legally possible, it would take years to process. Besides, it could result in an irreversible family rift. Jennifer left the office frustrated and confused. On Friday morning, Charles Mitchell called to check on the decision. So, Jennifer, do you accept my offer? Charles, my parents are still reluctant. So the answer is no? The answer is I need more time. Jennifer, I warned you the offer was only good until today. I know, but the situation is complicated. Listen, I'll make one final offer. $600,000, but only if we close by Monday. And if my parents don't sign, then unfortunately we can't do business. Over the weekend, Jennifer decided to make one last attempt to convince her parents. She arrived at the property on Saturday morning, determined to have a calm and rational conversation. She found her parents in the yard, giving Lady a bath. The dog seemed to be enjoying the attention, wagging her tail while Susan brushed her. "Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Mum." "Good morning, dear. Can I sit with you for a while?" I wanted to talk. Of course. They settled on the porch with the dogs lying nearby. "Dad, Mum, I know the last few weeks have been difficult for all of us." "They certainly have," Susan agreed. "And I want to apologize if at any point it seemed like I only care about money." "Seemed?" Robert asked. "Or is that really the case?" "Dad, it's not that I only care about money. It's that I see an opportunity to improve all our lives." "And you think our life needs improving?" "That's not it, Mum. You're happy here, I know. But imagine the possibilities that $600,000 could bring." $600,000? Robert raised an eyebrow. "Yesterday it was 500, last week it was 300. Charles increased the offer." Charles increased it. And why do you think he did that, Jennifer? Because he really wants the dogs. Or because he found out we now have other options and is afraid of losing the deal. Jennifer realized her father was sharper than she thought. That could be it too, but the important thing is that it's a good amount. "Honey, let me ask you something," said Susan. "If it were just about the money, why don't you accept the specialist's offer? They mentioned $2 million. Because $2 million is just a projection, Mum. 600,000 is guaranteed money." "I see. So you want quick cash without the work?" "That's not it." "Yes, it is, Jennifer. You want to sell our dogs to get quick money without committing to the work that responsible breeding requires." Robert stood up and walked over to Duke, who lifted his head for affection. "Honey, do you know how long I've been taking care of these dogs? Since they were puppies. 8 years, Jennifer. 8 years waking up early to feed them, cleaning up poop, taking them to the vet, brushing their fur, trimming nails, giving medicine when they're sick." "I know, Dad." "Do you? When was the last time you fed them?" Jennifer remained silent. "When was the last time you played with them, or at least petted them?" "Dad, I work a lot. I don't have time." "No time for your own dogs, but you have time to sell them." "That's not a fair comparison." "Why isn't it fair? You want the money they can generate, but you don't want the responsibility they require." Susan joined her husband. "Honey, have you stopped to think about what will happen to Duke and Lady if we sell them? They'll be well taken care of by Charles. Are you sure about that? He said he has a specialized property." "And did you go there to check?" "No, but you trust the word of a stranger who showed up here wanting to buy our dogs?" "Mom, he's a serious professional." "Honey, let me tell you something about purebred dogs that you might not know." Susan sat down again and motioned for Jennifer to come closer. "There's a big difference between a breeder who loves dogs and a breeder who only wants profit." "What's the difference?" "The breeder who loves them cares about the animal's well-being, the quality of the bloodline, the future of the puppies. The breeder who only wants profit treats dogs like money-making machines." "And how can we tell which type Charles is?" "By the way he approached us, showed up out of nowhere offering money, without wanting to know the dog's history, without caring about our emotional bond with them." Robert rejoined the conversation. "Jennifer, when the specialists came here, they spent hours talking with us about the bloodline, about the family history, about how we care for the dogs. Charles only talked about money. But what does that matter if the end result is the same? It matters because it shows the person's character, and when you hand an animal over to someone, you're entrusting their life to that person." Jennifer began to feel uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Dad, you're making this too complicated. It's just a commercial transaction. Just a commercial transaction. Susan stood up again, visibly irritated. Jennifer, you're talking about the dogs that grew up with you, that slept in your room when you were a child, that protected you your whole life. Mom, I understand the emotional side, but you choose to ignore that side to focus only on the money. I choose to be practical. Practical, shouted Robert. You call it practical to abandon your family and your history for money. I'm not abandoning anyone. No? Then why do you only show up here when you want something? Why do you never call to see how we're doing? Why have you never offered to help with the dogs? Because I work, Dad. I have a life. And we don't have lives? You do, but our lives aren't as important as yours, is that it? The discussion was turning into a deep family fight, touching old wounds that went far beyond the dog issue. Dad, that's not it. Yes, it is, Jennifer. You think because you live in the big city and have an office job, you're better than us. I never said that. You don't need to say it, honey. You show it every time you come here complaining about our life, our home, our dogs. Susan tried to calm things down. Robert, stop it. No, Susan, I'm tired of pretending everything's fine. Our daughter doesn't respect us, doesn't respect our life choices, and now she wants to sell what's most important to us. More important than me? Asked Jennifer, with teary eyes. The question made everyone stop for a moment. Honey, said Susan in a soft voice, you have always been and will always be the most important to us, but you don't act like we're important to you. How can you say that? Because it's true, Jennifer. When was the last time you spent a whole weekend here with us? When was the last time you called just to see how we're doing without wanting anything? Jennifer tried to remember, but couldn't. When was the last time you brought Michael here to really get to know us? When was the last time you showed genuine interest in our life? Her mother's questions hit Jennifer like slaps. She realized she had truly distanced herself from her parents over the years, only showing up when she needed something or for family obligations. Mom, Not a word, honey. You built your life in the city and forgot you have a family here. And now you want to sell what's left of that family to fund your new life. That's not how it is. Yes, it is. You want $600,000 to buy a bigger apartment or move abroad with your boyfriend. And you don't care if you have to destroy what your great-grandparents built to do it. Robert approached his daughter. Jennifer, I'm going to make you an offer. What offer? You stay here with us for a whole week, without going back to New York City, without work, without your boyfriend. Just you, me, your mother, and the dogs. What for? For you to understand what you're trying to sell. For you to remember who you were before you became this money-obsessed person. Dad, I can't take a whole week off work. Why not? Didn't you say you're a manager? Can't a manager take vacation? I can, but what, Jennifer? Is your career more important than your family? That's not it. Then stay. 1 week. If at the end of that week you still want to sell the dogs, we'll sign the papers. Jennifer looked at her parents, then at the dogs, then at the simple but well-kept property where she had grown up. 1 week? 1 week. And you'll seriously consider selling the dogs if I still want to at the end? We will. Jennifer thought about the offer. 1 week wasn't much time, and maybe it would be an opportunity to prove to her parents that her decision was rational and well thought out. Okay, but I need to go back today to organize things at work. Fine. Come back on Monday and stay until Sunday. That night, back in New York City, Jennifer talked to Michael about her parents' proposal. A whole week in that house? Jennifer, you'll go crazy with boredom. It's just 1 week, Michael. If it convinces them to sell the dogs, it's worth it. And if it doesn't convince them, it will. When I show them how important financial security is, they'll understand. Or you'll end up getting caught up in their sentimentality and give up on the sale. That won't happen. I know what I want. I hope so, Jennifer, because $600,000 might not come around again so soon. On Monday morning, Jennifer packed a week's worth of clothes and headed to her parents' property. During the trip, she made sure to call Charles Mitchell. Charles, I need an extension on the deadline. For how long? 1 week. Jennifer, I've already extended the deadline several times. I know, but I need to sort out some family matters. If you give me a week, I guarantee we'll close the deal. All right, but this is the last extension, and the price goes back to $500,000. Why? Because with each passing day, more people are showing interest in your dogs. If you take too long, I'll have to compete with other buyers. Okay. 1 week. 500,000. Upon arriving at the property, Jennifer was greeted by her parents and the dogs with a joy she hadn't expected. It had been a long time since she'd spent so much time there in one go, and she had forgotten how affectionate the animals were. "Welcome back, dear," said Susan, hugging her. "Thank you, Mum. Come on, let's put your things in your room." Jennifer's room had remained practically unchanged since her teenage years. There were photos of her with Duke and Lady when they were puppies, school diplomas, old books. It was like a time capsule. "Mum, you kept everything the same." "Of course, dear, it's your room, it always will be." During the first day, Jennifer tried to keep her focus on the task of convincing her parents about the sale, but gradually she got caught up in the routine of the property. In the morning, she helped her father feed the dogs and cleaned the yard. In the afternoon, she accompanied her mother on a trip to the vet for Lady's routine checkup. Dr. Paul, the veterinarian, was a middle-aged man who had known the family for many years. "Jennifer, long time no see. How's life in the big city?" "It's good, Dr. Paul. And Lady, how is she?" "Perfect, a healthy and still young dog. She can have puppies without any problems." "Do puppies pay off financially?" Dr. Paul looked at Susan before answering. "It depends on what you mean by pay off." "Money, Doctor. How much could a litter from Lady be worth?" "Jennifer, that's a complicated question. It depends on a lot of things." "Like what?" "It depends on the quality of the stud, the monitoring during pregnancy, the care for the puppies, the documentation, the marketing." "But in terms of value?" "A well-cared-for litter, with international pedigree and veterinary monitoring, can bring in between $80,000 to $200,000, depending on the number of puppies." "And how many litters can she have?" "At her age, 3 or 4 more, at most. It's not recommended to push it too much." On the way back, Susan remained silent. "Mum, what's wrong?" "Nothing, dear, I'm just thinking." "Thinking about what?" "About how sad it is to see you treating Lady like a money-making machine." "That's not it, Mom." "Yes, it is, Jennifer. You didn't ask about her health, her well-being, the risks of pregnancy. You only asked about money. Because that's the information I need to make a rational decision." "Rational?" "Dear, do you know that Lady almost died when she was a puppy?" "I didn't know that." "She was born with respiratory problems. We spent nights awake taking care of her, took her to specialized vets in New York City, spent a fortune on treatment." "And why?" "Because she was our family, Jennifer, not a source of income." In the evening, during dinner, Robert told stories about raising the dogs over the years. He talked about the joys and challenges, the tough times and the achievements. "Dear, do you remember when Grandpa Ibrahim got sick?" "I vaguely remember. He had cancer, and the vet said it wasn't worth doing the treatment because of his age." "And you did it anyway?" "We did. We spent almost 10,000 Rs on surgery and chemotherapy, and did it work? He lived another 2 years with quality of life. He saw the birth of Duke and Lady, who were his last puppies." "So, you spent 10,000 Rs on an elderly dog who was going to die anyway?" "Jennifer," exclaimed Susan, "sorry, but it's the truth. From a financial standpoint, it doesn't make sense." Robert looked at his daughter with sadness. "Daughter, do you really think everything in life should be measured in money?" "Not everything, Dad. But important decisions, yes." "And who decides what's important?" "Common sense." "Whose common sense? Yours, who lives in the city and comes here once a month, or ours who live with these dogs every day?" "Dad, you have an emotional connection that prevents you from seeing the situation objectively, and you have a financial connection that prevents you from seeing the situation humanely." The conversation went on through the night, with each side defending their perspective. Jennifer tried to show the financial advantages of the sale, while her parents emphasized the emotional and family aspects. On Tuesday, Jennifer decided to do more in-depth research on Charles Mitchell. Using her cell phone, she looked up information about him online. She found his company's website, which indeed looked professional. There were photos of modern facilities, customer testimonials, and certifications from competent authorities. Everything seemed legitimate. She decided to call some of the reference numbers listed on the site. "Hello, good morning. I'm researching the breeder, Charles Mitchell. Have you done business with him?" "Yes, we bought a German Shepherd from him 2 years ago. And how was the experience?" "Good. The dog came with all the paperwork in order, healthy, well cared for." "And his facilities?" "Well organized. It seems he takes good care of the animals." After calling 3 references, Jennifer felt more at ease about Charles's integrity. He really seemed to be a serious and competent breeder. In the afternoon, she helped her mother prepare a new kennel for the dogs, as the old one needed repairs. During the work, she observed how Duke and Lady interacted with her parents. It was evident that there was a very strong bond between them. "Mum, since when have you had this routine with the dogs?" "Since forever, daughter. Your father wakes up at 6 every morning to feed them. After breakfast, he takes them for a walk in the pasture. In the afternoon, it's time for a bath or brushing. At night, they stay on the porch with us." "Every day?" "Every day, Jennifer. Rain or shine, weekend or holiday, dogs don't take vacations." "And if you want to travel?" "We don't travel, daughter. How could we leave them?" "You could hire someone to take care of them. We tried that once when your father needed surgery in New York City and was hospitalized for a week. We hired a young man from the city to come here every day." "And how was it?" "It was terrible, Jennifer. The dogs got depressed. They hardly ate. Duke even got sick from missing us." "Missing you?" "Yes, daughter. Dogs miss people. They get sad. They get anxious. It's not like a plant that you leave there and it keeps growing on its own." During the night, Jennifer kept watching the dogs interact with her parents. They really seemed to understand the family's routine and participate in it actively. When Robert stood up, they followed him. When Susan went to the kitchen, they accompanied her. "Dad, have they always done this?" "What?" "Follow you around the house." "Always. They're guard dogs, Jennifer. Their job is to protect the family. For that, they need to know where the family members are." "And if you sold them, how would they adapt to a new home?" "It depends on how they were treated in the new home." "How so?" "If they were treated like family, they would eventually adapt and form a new emotional bond. If they were treated like business, they would probably just be obedient, but never happy." On Wednesday, Jennifer received an unexpected call from Dr. Thomas, the specialist veterinarian who had visited the property. "Miss Jennifer, how are you?" "Fine, doctor. Why are you calling?" "I wanted to talk to you about an interesting opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" "I made contact with a breeder in Argentina who's interested in trading a young male for breeding rights with Lady." "Trading?" "It's a common practice among serious breeders. Instead of selling animals, they form partnerships to improve bloodlines. And what would be the advantage for us?" "You'd get a young breeding male and still keep rights to some of Lady's puppies." "Would that be more advantageous than selling the dogs?" "Financially, much more. And the dogs would still be yours." Jennifer became interested in the proposal. "Doctor, can I talk to my parents and call you back?" "Of course, but don't take too long because the Argentine breeder has other options." During dinner, Jennifer presented Dr. Thomas's proposal to her parents. "What do you think?" "It sounds interesting," said Robert, "but I need to better understand how this partnership would work." "Dad, the important thing is it would mean more money than selling, and you'd still keep the dogs." "Jennifer, it's not just about money." "What do you mean?" "It's about responsibility. If we enter a partnership like this, we'll have to commit to professional breeding. That's a lot of work." "What kind of work?" Susan explained. "Honey, professional breeding isn't just putting dogs together to mate. You have to control their diet, do regular checkups, monitor the pregnancy, care for the puppies, socialize them, select buyers." "And why would that be a problem?" "Because we're too old for so much work, and you don't live here to help." "I could help on weekends." "Jennifer, you've said 1,000 times you don't want to get involved with dog breeding. But if it's temporary, to secure the family's future." "Temporary?" "Honey, if we get into this business, It'll be for at least 5 years. That's the time needed to establish a serious breeding operation. 5 years is a long time. Yes, and in 5 years, I'll be 73 and your mother will be 70. Jennifer realized she hadn't really considered her parents' age. But you could hire help. With what money, honey? The breeding profits would be split with the Argentine partner. There'd be little left to pay for employees. So you'd rather just sell right away? Jennifer, we'd rather you stop pushing to solve a situation that isn't a problem for us. How is it not a problem? You're letting a fortune sit idle. Idle fortune? Robert became irritated. Honey, these dogs bring us joy every day, keep us company, protect our security. They're our family. Isn't that a fortune? Dad, that's a very romantic view of the situation. And yours is a very cold one. It's a realistic view. Realistic? What's your reality, Jennifer? What do you mean? What is your reality? You work 12 hours a day at a job that gives you no pleasure, to earn a salary that barely pays your bills, living in a polluted and violent city with no time for family, no time for yourself. And you call that reality? At least I have financial independence. Independence? You're always complaining that money doesn't stretch, that you need a bigger apartment, that you want to travel but don't have the means. What kind of independence is that? It's better than being stuck here in the middle of nowhere depending on pensions. Depending on pensions? Susan stood up. Honey, do you think we live on pensions? Don't you? Jennifer, your father has a good pension from the metalworking industry. I receive a pension from my first marriage, and we still have income from the chicken eggs and goat milk we sell in town. I didn't know you sold eggs and milk. Because you never asked about our life, daughter. You assume we're poor and pitiful, but that's not true. Then why do you live in such a simple house? Because we like it this way, Jennifer. We don't need a mansion to be happy. Robert added, Daughter, we could have built a bigger house, bought a new car, traveled abroad, but we chose to live simply and peacefully. Why? Because we discovered happiness has nothing to do with the size of the house or the model of the car, but it has to do with financial security. Partly, yes, and we have financial security, maybe not in the way you imagine, but we do. How can you have financial security if you don't invest the money to earn more? Daughter, invest in what? In the stock market? In funds that can fail? In businesses that can go wrong? In anything that earns more than letting the money sit idle? Jennifer, let me explain something about investment that you might not know. Robert stood up and brought a notebook from the office. Look here. This is our financial record of the last 10 years. Jennifer looked at the numbers in surprise. Her parents' monthly income was higher than she imagined, and their expenses were much lower. You save money every month. We do. And do you know where we invest? Where? In the land, in property improvements, in the animals' health, in our own health. These are investments that give real and lasting returns. But you could invest in other things and earn more. More than what, daughter? We have everything we need. Our own home, productive land, healthy animals, food on the table, good health. What more do we need? Luxury, travel, comfort. What for? We're happy this way. But what if you get sick? What if you need money for the hospital? We have health insurance, daughter, and we have money saved for emergencies. How much? Enough. Jennifer realized she had completely underestimated her parents' financial situation. They really had more stability than she imagined. On Thursday, she woke up with Duke licking her face. The dog had entered the room during the night and slept beside her bed as he did when she was a child. Hi, Duke. You remember me, huh? The dog wagged his tail and showed affection, as if saying yes. During breakfast, Jennifer noticed details of her parents' routine that she had never noticed before. They had a natural harmony. Each knew exactly what to do without needing to coordinate. Susan prepared the coffee while Robert took care of the dogs. Then they switched roles naturally. Have you always had this harmony? What harmony? Asked Susan. This way of organizing yourselves without speaking. Oh, it's 45 years of marriage, daughter. We learned to understand each other. Did you get married very young? I was 20, your father was 22. And you never regretted it? Getting married young? No, we grew up together, learned everything together. And did you never think about having other children? Susan and Robert looked at each other. We did, yes, but we couldn't. Couldn't how? I had 3 miscarriages after you were born. On the 4th try, the doctors said it was risky for my health. Jennifer fell silent. She had never known this part of her parents' story. Is that why you became so attached to the dogs? It wasn't compensatory attachment, daughter. It was real love. When you grew up and went to the city, they filled a void that was left in the house. What void? The void of caring for someone, Jennifer, of having responsibility for a life, of seeing growth, of giving affection. In the afternoon, Jennifer accompanied her father on a trip to the city to buy dog food and supplies. Along the way, she observed how Robert was known and respected in the area. "Mr. Robert, how are the giants?" asked the pet store owner. "Well, Mr. Thompson, growing and eating a lot. And how about the breeding?" "For now, just the 2 of them. We're not thinking about breeding." "That's a shame. Dogs of your quality would produce excellent puppies." On the way back, Jennifer asked, "Dad, does everyone in town know about our dogs?" "Of course. In a small town, everyone knows everything." "And what do they say?" "That we're lucky to have such special dogs, that we should take the opportunity to breed them." "And why don't you?" "Because breeding dogs isn't a game, Jennifer. It's a responsibility, and responsibility isn't something we take on lightly." "But you have experience with dogs." "We have experience taking care of 2 dogs as family. We don't have experience with commercial breeding, which is completely different." "What's the difference?" "In commercial breeding, you need to think about profit, productivity, and the market. The dogs stop being family and become a business." "And is that bad?" "It's neither bad nor good, dear. It's different. And we chose to have family, not business." That night, Jennifer got a call from Michael. "Jennifer, how's your week going there?" "Educational." "What do you mean?" "I'm discovering things about my parents that I didn't know." "What kind of things?" "That they're more financially organized than I imagined, that they have a social life in town, that they're respected in the community." "And does that change anything about selling the dogs?" "I don't know, Michael. Maybe it does." "Jennifer, you can't be serious. It's $500,000. I know how much it is." "Then why are you hesitating?" "Because I'm starting to understand what that money would mean for my parents, and it's not what I imagined." "What do you mean?" "Michael, they don't need this money to live better. They already live well in their own way. But with $500,000, they could live much better." "According to who?" "According to you, who's never spent time with them." "Jennifer, you're letting sentimentality take over." "Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally using my head to understand the real situation, not the situation I imagined. What about our future, our plans?" "What plans, Michael?" "The bigger apartment, the trip abroad. Are they your plans or our plans?" "What do you mean?" "Are you more interested in the money from the dogs or in me?" "Jennifer, what kind of question is that?" "It's an important question, because if you're with me expecting me to inherit a fortune from my parents, you're with the wrong person." "That's not it, Jennifer." "No? Then why did you never want to come here to properly meet my parents? Why did you never show interest in their lives?" "Because we have our own lives in the city. And my parents are part of my life, Michael." "Are they? Since when?" Michael's question hit Jennifer unexpectedly. She realized she had truly distanced herself from her parents over the years, treating them like a social obligation instead of important people in her life. "You're right, Michael. They weren't part of my life, but they're becoming part of it again." "And what does that mean for us?" "It means I might need to rethink some things." On Friday, Jennifer woke up early and found her parents already in the yard taking care of the dogs. For the first time, she offered to help spontaneously. "Can I help with anything?" "Of course, dear. You can brush Lady while I give Duke a bath." During the brushing, Jennifer noticed details about Lady she had never seen before. The markings in her fur that told stories of play and adventures, the small scars from old scratches, the expressive eyes that seemed to understand everything. "Was she always this gentle?" "Always," Susan answered. "Since she was little. Duke is more energetic, but she's always been calmer. And do they get along? They're inseparable. When one gets sick, the other gets worried. When one goes out for a walk, the other waits by the door. How do you know they feel that? Because we've lived with them every day for 8 years, dear. We learn to read their signals. What kind of signals? Look at Lady's body posture right now while you're brushing her. See how relaxed she is, with her ears back, her tail wagging slowly. That means she's enjoying the attention. And if she weren't enjoying it, her ears would be up, her body tense, her tail still. She'd give signs that she wants you to stop. Jennifer spent the morning observing the dog's behavior and learning to interpret their signals. It was as if she were discovering a language that had always been there, but that she had never paid attention to. In the afternoon, she received a call from Charles Mitchell. "Jennifer, how are the negotiations going there?" "I'm still talking with my parents. It's Friday. I need an answer by tomorrow." "Charles, can I ask for a little more time?" "Jennifer, I already told you I have other interested parties. If you don't close soon, I'll have to look for other options." "What other options?" "I found a breeder in Colorado who has an interesting pair of Kangals. They don't have your dog's lineage, but they'll do to start." "And if I accept your proposal tomorrow?" "If you accept tomorrow, we'll close at 400,000. 400? Yesterday it was 500. Yesterday you had exclusivity. Today I'm already negotiating with other people. That's not fair, Charles." "Business is business, Jennifer. Those who don't decide quickly miss opportunities." After hanging up, Jennifer was irritated by Charles's pressure. There was something about his attitude that bothered her, but she couldn't quite pinpoint what. During dinner, she told her parents about the call. He lowered the offer to 400,000. "And what did you say?" asked Robert. "That I would think about it." "Dear, let me tell you something about negotiation." "What?" "When someone puts a lot of pressure on you to close a deal quickly, it's because something is wrong." "Why do you think that?" "Because if the deal were really good for both parties, there wouldn't be any need for pressure. The person would be happy to wait for you to decide calmly." "But he said he has other interested parties." "That could be true, or it could be a sales tactic to pressure you. How can you tell the difference?" "Experience, dear, and healthy suspicion." Susan added, "Dear, do you remember the salesman who wanted to sell us a piece of land a few years ago?" "I don't remember." "He showed up here saying it was a unique opportunity, that there were other interested buyers that we had to decide the same day." "And did you buy it?" "We didn't buy. And we found out later that the land had documentation issues and could never be sold legally." "So it was a scam?" "It was. And if we had bought on impulse, we would have lost the money." "Do you think Charles is running a scam?" "We don't know, dear. But his attitude is suspicious." "How so?" "He showed up out of nowhere, offering a high amount without even examining the dogs properly, and now he's pressuring to close quickly. Those are red flags." Robert went to get Charles's card and examined it carefully. "Dear, have you been to his property?" "No." "Have you spoken with clients who bought dogs from him?" "I spoke with a few on the phone." "And did you research whether those numbers are real?" "What do you mean?" "If you called the same numbers again to confirm they're real people, not actors hired to give false references." Jennifer realized she hadn't done such a detailed check. "Dad, you're being very suspicious." "Dear, when it comes to money, suspicion is never too much." That night, Jennifer decided to do more in-depth research on Charles Mitchell. She used Google to look for information beyond his official website. She found a few mentions on specialized forums, but nothing very detailed. In one forum, there was a comment from someone saying they had bought a dog from Charles and that the experience was good. In another, there was a complaint about delays in receiving the documentation. She decided to call one of the references Charles had provided again. "Hello, good evening. Sorry to bother you. I spoke with you on Tuesday about Charles Mitchell." "Oh yes, the lady who's researching him." "That's right. I wanted to ask one more question. Did you buy the dog directly from his property?" "No, he brought it here to our house." "And did you get to see his facilities?" "No. Why?" "It's just that I'm thinking of doing a bigger deal with him and wanted to be sure about the setup." "Oh, I see. Well, I can tell you that the dog we bought came healthy and with all the paperwork in order, but about the facilities, we can't say. After calling 2 more references, Jennifer realized that none had visited Charles's property. They had all received the dogs at home or at meeting points. She began to get suspicious. If Charles really had a specialized property as he claimed, why didn't he take clients to see it? On Saturday morning, she decided to call Charles and propose a visit to his property. Charles, good morning. Before closing any deal, I'd like to see your facilities. My facilities? Yes. You said you have a specialized property in Pennsylvania. I'd like to visit to understand what the future would be like for our dogs. Jennifer, that's not necessary. I can send you photos on WhatsApp. I'd prefer to see it in person. It's just that the property is a bit far. It's difficult for visits. Far from where? From Philadelphia. It's in the countryside. Charles, if I'm going to sell my dogs to you, I have the right to know where they'll be staying. Of course. It's just that I'm in the middle of renovations at the property. It's not suitable for visits right now. When will it be ready? In a few months. And where will the dogs stay in the meantime? I have a temporary location right here in New York City. Where in New York City? It's a friend's farm in Hudson Valley. Jennifer began to notice inconsistencies in Charles's story. Charles, can you give me the address of this temporary location? Jennifer, why all the questions? Why all? Don't you trust me? It's just that I'm being careful. These are very special dogs to my family. I understand, but I assure you they'll be very well taken care of. Then there's no problem giving me the address, right? The problem is that the place isn't mine, it's my friend's. I need to ask his permission before bringing visitors. All right, can you call him now? Not now, he's traveling. He won't be back until next week. Jennifer hung up the phone with many doubts. The conversation with Charles had raised several suspicious points she hadn't noticed before. During lunch, she told her parents about the conversation. He didn't want to give me the address of the facilities. And what was his reason? Asked Robert. He said he's renovating the main property and that he'd temporarily use a friend's farm. And the address of the farm? He said he needs to ask his friend for permission. Honey, that sounds like a runaround. I thought it was strange too. Susan suggested, Honey, why don't you ask one of the experts who came here to check the information about this Charles? Good idea, Mom. Jennifer called Dr. Thomas. Doctor, can I ask a favor? Can you check the information about a breeder named Charles Mitchell? He said he has a specialized property in Pennsylvania. Of course, let me check our records and contacts in the area. A few hours later, Dr. Thomas called back. Jennifer, I found some information about this Charles. So, Doctor, well, he is indeed registered as a breeder in New York City, but I didn't find any reference about a property in Pennsylvania. Is that suspicious? Not necessarily. The property might be new or not officially registered yet, but it would be good to check it out personally. He doesn't want to take me there. Now that is suspicious. A serious breeder always wants to show their facilities. It's a matter of professional pride. So now, Doctor, what do you advise? I advise not closing the deal without seeing the facilities, and if possible, ask for references from other breeders in the region. How do I do that? I can put you in touch with some colleagues from Pennsylvania to check if they know this Charles. That would be great, Doctor. On Sunday morning, the last day of the week that Jennifer had arranged with her parents, she woke up with a completely different perspective on the situation. During breakfast, the three talked about the discoveries of the past few days. Dad, Mom, I need to admit something. What, honey? I came here determined to convince you to sell the dogs, but now I'm no longer sure if it's the right decision. Why did you change your mind, asked Susan? Because I learned a lot this week about you, about the dogs, about myself. What kind of things? That you have a much more organized and happy life than I imagined. That the dogs are really special, not just for their financial value. And that I was being driven by greed, not by reason. Robert stood up and hugged his daughter. Honey, we didn't mean to hurt you with anything we said. You didn't hurt me, Dad. You made me see reality. And what is your decision about the dogs? My decision is that they should remain our family, and if one day we decide to breed professionally, it should be for love of the dogs, not for money. Susan joined the family hug. Honey, you can't imagine how happy we are to hear that. And I couldn't imagine how blind I was to what really matters. In the afternoon, Jennifer called Charles Mitchell to inform him of her decision. Charles, I've decided not to sell the dogs. Jennifer, are you sure? I can go down to $350,000. It's not a matter of price, Charles, it's a matter of family. Family? Jennifer, they're just dogs. For you, maybe. For us, they're much more than that. You're making a huge financial mistake. Maybe. But I'd rather make a financial mistake than an emotional one. If you change your mind, call me. But I can't guarantee I'll keep the interest. I understand. Thank you for the offer. After hanging up, Jennifer felt relieved. It was as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. In the evening, she called Michael to tell him about her decision. Michael, I've decided not to sell the dogs. What do you mean? I spent this week with my parents and realized it would be wrong to sell the dogs. Jennifer, are you kidding me? I'm not. It's a serious and considered decision. Considered? You're throwing away $350,000 over sentimentality. I'm preserving something that has greater value than money. Greater value than money? Jennifer, you've gone crazy. Maybe. Or maybe I've finally regained my sanity. What about our plans? Michael, honestly, I think our plans were never compatible. What do you mean? You want a life based on money and status. I'm discovering that I want a life based on relationships and values. Relationships and values don't pay the bills. They don't. But they give a sense of fulfillment that money can't provide. Jennifer, you're talking just like your parents. And what's wrong with that? They're wise people who built a happy and stable life. Stable? They live in a simple house in the countryside. And they're happier than we are, living in an expensive city apartment and always complaining about money. The conversation with Michael ended tensely, but Jennifer had no regrets. She was beginning to understand that maybe they really weren't compatible in the long run. On Monday morning, she received a call from Dr. Thomas with important information. Jennifer, I was able to verify the information about Charles Mitchell with my colleagues in Pennsylvania. So, Doctor? No one knows him in the region. And more. I found out he has tried to buy other rare dogs from breeders in situations similar to yours. What do you mean? Families who have valuable dogs but don't know the exact market value. He offers amounts that seem high to the seller but are very low considering the animal's real worth. So he's a middleman. Exactly. He buys cheap from those who don't know the market and resells at a high price to those who do. And if I had sold the dogs to him, he would probably resell them for at least double what he paid. $350,000 would turn into $700,000. Or more, Jennifer. Dogs with your dog's lineage are extremely rare. Jennifer was shocked by the information. If she had sold the dogs, not only would she have parted with them for money, but she would also have been cheated on the price. Doctor, thank you for warning me. You're welcome. That's how the serious breeder community protects itself against opportunists. That day, Jennifer made an important decision. She called the office and resigned. What do you mean, resignation? Asked her boss. I've decided to change my life. I'm going to leave New York City and go live in the countryside with my parents. Jennifer, you have a solid career here. Don't do anything foolish. It's not foolish. It's a conscious decision to prioritize what really matters in life. And what really matters? Family, relationships, peace of mind, purpose. Purpose? Isn't your purpose to grow professionally? My purpose is to be happy, and I'm not happy here. In the afternoon, Jennifer talked to her parents about her decision to move to the property. Honey, are you sure about this? Asked Susan. Yes, Mom. This week here showed me that I was living a life that wasn't mine. But what about your job, your apartment, your life in the city? I'll sell the apartment and look for work in the area, or maybe start something of my own. Like what? I don't know yet. Maybe something related to the dogs, but no rush with planning. Robert seemed worried. Honey, such a radical change can be dangerous. Aren't you deciding on impulse? No, Dad. I'm deciding through reflection. This week made me realize I've been living on autopilot for years. What do you mean? Working a job that didn't bring me joy, in a relationship that didn't fulfill me, in a city that didn't make me happy, pursuing goals that weren't really mine. And what are your real goals? I'm still discovering, but I know they involve being close to family, taking care of things I love, having time to think and feel. Susan hugged her daughter. Honey, if you're happy with this decision, we support you. But think it over, because life changes are serious. I have thought, Mom, and for the first time in years I feel like I'm making a decision with my heart and head aligned. In the following months, Jennifer organized her move gradually. She sold her apartment in New York City, terminated her work contract, and ended her relationship with Michael. The move to her parents' property was smoother than she expected. She started helping with the daily routine of the dogs and the property, learning about animal breeding and farm management. 6 months later, Dr. Thomas appeared again with an interesting proposal. Jennifer, remember that story about the partnership with the Argentine breeder? I do. He's still interested. And now with you living here and able to dedicate yourself to breeding, it might make sense to consider. How exactly would it work? He would lend a young male to breed with Lady. The puppies would be divided between you, and he would provide all the technical support to establish a professional breeding operation here. And what would our part be? You would provide the female, the location, and the daily care. He would provide the male, the technical expertise, and the market contacts. Would it be financially viable? Very viable. And most importantly, it would be an ethical breeding focused on quality and animal welfare. Jennifer talked with her parents about the proposal. What do you think? Now it makes sense, said Robert. You're here to help, you know about the subject, you have time to dedicate. And it wouldn't just be for money, Susan added. It would be to perpetuate the family lineage and contribute to preserving the breed. So you agree? We agree, dear, as long as it's done with responsibility and love for the animals. 1 year after her move to the countryside, Jennifer had a completely different life. She woke up early to take care of the dogs, spent the mornings studying canine genetics and breeding, the afternoons tending to the property, and the evenings talking with her parents. Lady had her first litter, 4 healthy and beautiful puppies. The work was intense but rewarding. Each puppy was cared for like a family member until it was time to go to their new home. The breeding income was good, but it wasn't the most important thing. The most important was the sense of purpose and fulfillment that Jennifer felt every day. 2 years later, she received an unexpected call from Charles Mitchell. Jennifer, I heard that you set up a professional breeding operation. Yes, we did, Charles. And is it going well? Very well. Listen, I was thinking, how about we form a partnership? What kind of partnership? I have contacts in the international market. I could help you export puppies to other countries. We're not interested, Charles. But the international prices are much better. Charles, our breeding isn't based on prices. It's based on quality and responsibility. What do you mean? We carefully select every family that receives our puppies. We don't sell to just anyone who has money. That's commercial nonsense, Jennifer. For you, maybe. For us, it's ethics. 3 years after her move, Jennifer was recognized as one of the most respected Kangal breeders in the United States. Her breeding operation was small but known for its quality and care for the animals. One day she received a visit from a young couple from New York City interested in acquiring a puppy. Sirs, before we sell a puppy, we need to get to know you better. What do you mean? Asked the young man. We want to know how you live, where the dog would stay, what kind of care they would receive. Is that normal? For us, it's essential. Our dogs aren't products, they're living beings that deserve responsible families. The woman in the couple seemed interested in the approach. What kind of information do you need? Do you have experience with large dogs? Do you have adequate space? Time to dedicate to the animal? Resources for veterinary care and expenses? We have space and resources. As for experience, this is our first large dog. Then we recommend that you first take a course on canine behavior, and that you come here a few times to meet the adult dogs and understand what to expect. You do all that to sell a puppy? We don't do it to sell, we do it to ensure that every puppy goes to a suitable family. And if you decide we're not suitable, then we don't sell, and we don't charge anything for the visits and guidance. The couple was impressed by the Barnes family's care. They came back 3 more times, took the recommended course, and became one of the selected families to receive a puppy. 5 years after her move, Jennifer reflected on the transformations in her life while watching Duke and Lady playing in the yard with their puppies from the 3rd litter. Susan, now 70 years old, approached. "Daughter, do you regret anything?" "What, Mum? Leaving city life, your job, the relationship?" "I don't regret anything, Mum. I'm happier today than I ever was in New York City." "Why?" "Because here I have purpose. I care for living beings, preserve a historic lineage, contribute to families who want to responsibly own dogs." "And financially?" "Financially, it's great too. I make less money than I did as a manager, but I spend much less. And the money I earn comes from something I love doing." Robert, now 73, joined the conversation. "Daughter, thank you." "Thank you for what, Dad?" "For choosing to stay, for understanding the value of what we had here, for becoming the person we always knew you could be." "Dad, I should be thanking you. You saved me from an empty life." "We didn't save anyone, daughter. You chose to be saved." At that moment, Jennifer watched the dogs running free in the backyard, her parents smiling beside her, the well-kept property around them, and felt a deep gratitude for having chosen the path of the heart instead of the path of money. Years later, when telling her story to young breeders who sought her out to learn, Jennifer always concluded with the same reflection. The difference between price and value is that price is what you pay, and value is what you receive. When I chose not to sell Duke and Lady, I gave up a high price, but received an invaluable reward, a life with purpose, a united family, and the certainty of having made the right choice. And when someone asked if she would recommend others make the same choice, she replied, "I don't recommend anyone make the same choice I did. I recommend that each person listen to their heart and choose what truly matters to them." For me, having a united family and a meaningful life mattered more than having money in the bank. But everyone has their own values and priorities. End of story. And you? What did you think of this story of family love and overcoming? Could you feel Jennifer's transformation throughout the journey? Leave your opinion in the comments and tell us, do you believe Jennifer made the right choice by giving up money in favor of family values? We'd love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more moving stories like this one.